We're ready.
All right, I will call to order the October 23rd, 2023 meeting of the Newtown Township Board of Supervisors. I apologize for us starting off late, but I will note that the board did meet in executive session at 6 p.m. where we discussed a police employment administrative issue, police collective bargaining issue, and one legal UCC permit appeal issue. With that, Mr. Neese, please call the roll.
Mr. Altieri,
Here.
Ms. Roberts Lightcap,
Here.
Mr. Partridge,
Here.
Mr. Russo,
Here.
Ms. Chanlis.
Here.
Your solicitor, engineer, and manager are here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Neese. And now we'll move down to the moment of silence. And we will stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now move down to item 5.1, consider the approving of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Motion was made by Supervisor Russo, seconded by Supervisor Chanlis. Is there any board comment? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Section 6, public comment for agenda items only. If there's any members of the audience who wish to say anything with regards, butchering that. If there's any members of the public present who wish to provide any public comment, please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, let the record reflect there is none, and we'll move down to minutes, 7.1. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the October 9, 2023 meeting? Is there a second? Motion was made by Supervisor Chanlis, seconded by Supervisor Partridge. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Section 8, presentations, 8.1, the 2024 Bike to Work Day on May 17th, presentation by the Delaware County TMA. Your representative from here? Perfect. Just come up to the podium, make sure that microphone's on, and the floor is yours.
Perfect. Good evening. Thank you very much for having me today. I know this is early to be here for Bike to Work in May of 2024, but we have a bicycle coalition that is really excited about the prospect of having Bike to Work in Newtown Township. Bike to Work Day is part or culmination of actual National Bike to Work Week, which is held the third week of May. Bike to Work Day is actually the third Friday in May. In 2024, that will be Friday, May 17th. Delaware County Transportation Management Association likes to highlight and showcase communities that have commanded resources and energy to notating bicycling as a mode of transportation aside in addition to recreation. Your lanes up on Campus Boulevard and the showing of corporate, support for bike infrastructure in lanes make it a perfect place to showcase the county's 2024 celebration. I'm not asking for an answer now. I'm just hoping that you'll take it under consideration and allow us. In 2023, we showcased Lansdowne Borough, which had some ordinance changes to remove parking and change direction of streets to add considerable amount of bike lanes and connective bike routes that get you from one end of Lansdowne Borough to the other. The Bicycle Coalition will be working with us on a guided ride tour through sections of Newtown Township. And that's one of the reasons why we're here so early to ask for your support. Typically, the event is a morning event. It runs from 8 to 10 a.m. We're normally over there and done by 10:30. We will probably have some displays at Campus Boulevard on the grassy areas over there. We will have bike riders, and then we'll also have some children's programs that take place at the libraries. We have bike helmets, we have safety demonstrations, and rodeo activities for kids. So that would be Friday, May 17th, 2024.
And I would just make note, that just so the board knows, we have been members of the TCMA for an incredibly long period of time, at least all 8 years I've been here. And I think it was probably multiple years before that. I actually serve on the board. You allow me to do that. And so I just wanted to let you know that this is something you've been supporting the TCMA for a long time. So this is a really great opportunity for us to continue to showcase what's happening in the county, but what's happening here as well.
We also get pretty good media coverage on that day as well, like digital and broadcast will show up. Thank you very much for considering the request.
Do you want your decision now?
If you don't have to vote on it.
I mean, we can do it either way.
No expense.
Well, I think it's, I don't want to speak for the board, but it seems like it's safe to say that this is something that we're in support of. So we'll have our township staff reach out to you and we'll start getting the ball rolling.
Perfect. Thank you so much for considering.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks for showcasing everything that we've been doing with regards to.
You guys are doing
alternative
a
modes.
great job.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Just
Thank
go
you.
back up to the microphone and say that again.
Yeah. You're doing a great job in Newtown.
Thank you. All right, now we'll move to 8.2, all other funds, excluding general funds and capital funds budget presentation, Mr. Neese.
Yes, so I do believe it was added to the agenda for the public this afternoon, but we do have a budget presentation tonight related to all of our other funds. And so when we think about all of our other funds in governmental accounting, there's a variety of funds that are set up specific for specific purposes. And I'll go through kind of what they are as we go along and talk about them. So first one is our streetlight fund. And our anticipated streetlight revenue next year would be somewhere around 39,000. It might get up to 40 related to our taxes. And the reason why it would be less than it has been this year is because we had some folks that had to actually do some back payment of taxes for 21 and 22. And then I backed that out. And before we did that, you can see if you look back at our budget, we anticipated about 35,000 and ended up at 41. Also, we do a transfer in from the general fund of 11,000. And then we're anticipating about $1,900 of interest, which will give us about 52,000. When we look at the expenses on the next slide, we have traffic control devices, which really are actually our street lights themselves. It's not really traffic like you think about stop sign or traffic signals. It's really the lights themselves that you see as the street lights. That's going to be about 40,000. We have a debt that we pay back to ourselves every year of 9,000. We borrowed money from ourselves when we did the LED program, and that's what that 9,000 goes back and pays for. And then in addition to that, we are setting $14,000 a year aside for the purpose of having funds to do the replacement of the heads. The LED lights, when we put them in, we were told would last about 15 years. And so at the end of that 15-year period, by setting aside this 14,000, we'll have the money to go and replace those lights at the time. And so that's what the purpose of that is. And it will be set aside this year. We started that in 2023. And then we've set that up for until the lights would need to be replaced. So in summary, we will have revenues of 52, we'll spend 64, we'll use fund balance of about 11,000, and that'll take us down. If you're looking at our numbers, we anticipate our numbers will be about 79,000 in that way. And so just kind of letting you know where we think we'll be at the end of the year. Our next fund that we're going to look at is the hydrant fund. This is a tax as well, a real estate tax driven fund. Predominantly, this is on homeowners that are within so many feet of a hydrant, or a business that's in so many feet of a hydrant in the town, and that's who pays the tax for that. And so when you look at this, our anticipation, again, we had that uptick this year of the payments from people paying from 21 and 22, a couple big property owners that did that. And so I backed out those numbers. and we look at 105,000. Interest again about 2,100. If you look at expenses, we're looking. If I jump down to expenses, we're looking at about 100,000. We would actually have an increase in the hydrant fund of 7,300. I'm sorry, and that would take you up to 9,100 in that fund. The next fund that we have is the ARPA fund, which is, you can go on down or up. The next fund we have is the ARPA fund. That is the money that we receive from the federal government. We do have a time limit on when we can spend this. You as the board have directed us to spend this money on stormwater, and that's what we'll be doing. We anticipate about $15,000 in interest next year. And then we anticipate, if we go down to the expenses, looking at revenues or not, looking at expenses of about $1,045,000. Those expenses, along with the money that we get in interest, if we go to the next slide, the summary, will look at spending us down to a zero at the end of next year, which is what we want to do. That money has to be spent. We have to have all the contracts signed and everything by the end of 2024, and then the money spent no later than the beginning of 2025. So that's the plan. Our goal would be to have that all done by the end of the year and have it taken care of. We had a note proceeds. This money was related to our road program. If you recall, back in 2020, for those who were on the board at that time, we took a note out for the road program, and we did a significant number of roadways in conjunction with the municipal authorities build out of the sewer system. So we redid like all of the roads that were impacted at that time, so that we could get full road width restoration and new roads in those areas in the community. So we did that. And so we took out a note and did that. And so again, I anticipate all of those funds will be actually spent this year on the current road program that we're doing. So we will have no dollars in 2024, either in revenue and or expenses. So that's where that fund will basically go away unless we do another borrowing in that way. And then if you recall, we had bond money. We had borrowed about $10 million several years ago to do the renovation on this building. We still had about $69,000 left. And with that, we were looking potentially to do a roof program this year. That did not get fully done. I think it's going to probably happen next year. And so that money will be spent on the roof. Although we do have some repairs George and I have been talking about that need to be done to the HVAC system, not only in this building, but also in his building. So we may end up spending some of that this year, but we had kind of designated this money to take care of the roof, which this won't cover all of it, but it is part of that cost. So again, we anticipate for 2024, we'll have a little bit of revenue in that we'll use the fund balance, but we'll have about $1,500 in interest, giving us a total of $69,000. And we'll look at spending that again, like I said, most likely on the roof next year. And that's the expense side. And then if we look at the summary, we will be at zero at the end of the year. So that's where that note or that bond money is, and that will take care of that. The war on drugs, this is money that we used to get some from the county when they did foreclosures and things like that on folks who had drug arrests and those kind of things. Since probably about 3 years ago, we've kind of stopped getting that money. But what we have in there, we've been kind of spending down. We think next year we're going to use about $4,800, $4,850, and we'll have about $550 worth of interest. I'm sorry, use fund balance of $4,850. We plan on spending $5,400 for protective vests. Those are the vests that the police officers wear. And so we will look at doing that. And so that will be the expenditure out of that fund. And then if we go down to the summary page, you can see basically at the end of the year, we anticipate that number's not right. We will be less than 31,000 at the end of the year. I think we added the numbers instead of subtracting. I apologize. So we'll go change that number, but we'll be down basically $4,800 less the 31,000 that we anticipate ending this year in. The next fund that we have is the police donations fund. This is when people contribute to the police department for, they just thanked our police folks, and we put that money aside in a donations account. And it's been for a variety of things over the years. And so revenue wise, we don't usually plan on any revenue because we don't know that people are going to do that unless they tell us ahead of time. But we're looking at using some fund balance this year, as well as using the interest. And we anticipate about $1,070 in interest. And so if we look at the expenditure for that, the next slide up, we think that will be about $8,000. And as I understand that, they've changed their patch design. And so this will replace the patches on their uniforms and all of that, and as well as pay for the patches themselves. And that will all be done as part of the next year. And if you look on the next page, you can see, or next slide, you can see the summary of what we think will happen next year. Again, using about $6,900 of the fund balance plus the interest, and then we'll be about $57,000 in that account at the end of the year. Open space revenue. This is one that, this is one that's typically we get a contribution from a developer if they can't do recreation space as part of their project. That's typically where this comes in. So we have a little bit of interest on that money, about $1,400. And next year we plan on spending, we thought we were going to do it this year, was a $30,000 for the parking lot at the Meadow Preserve. We've been working with PennDOT. We still have a few things we have to work out. And so we have $30,000 set aside for that actual project next year. Plus we have $5,000 that we got a grant for that will be contributing to that next year. So that's the open space fund. And we will decrease the fund balance in there about 28,000. The exact fund balance, I'm still working through on some numbers on that. So that takes us down to the stormwater fund. The stormwater fund, this money is related to the money that we collect. If you've done a project at your home and you had to put down a large escrow for future, you had a project during the moment, and then you had to put money down at the end. There's an agreement that you put together. That's what this is. This money goes to pay for the inspections of that stormwater for a 10-year period. That's stormwater infrastructure for a 10-year period. And so that's what we're looking at here. We think there'll be interest of roughly about $20,000 on that. And then we'll spend probably close to about 50 if we look at the expenditures. That's about what we've been spending over the years. And so when we look at that, we'll decrease our fund balance about 29,000 in that year. Then liquid fuels. This is the money we get from the state related to our road program. And it's based on population and also based on the amount of state roads we have in the township. That number kind of changes. We always have to kind of guess where we think they're going to be. Sometimes it's really good and sometimes it's lower. And so we try to figure out what it is. We budgeted 433 and this year we actually got 440. George and I have talked. I don't think we're going to hit that number next year based on what we know on the taxes on gas this last year and some other things that have been happening. So we think it's going to be closer to 416, but it's always a guess and we don't know it until, we don't know that number until usually, what is it, March, George, that we get that number for next year. Yes. Well, but what we're hearing, and it's one of those things you're taking a little bit of it's a guess, but there's more electric cars on the road that aren't paying it. And so even though the gas is more expensive, there actually is not as many gallons being sold as what I was told. So that's kind of where they think that number is. And it's kind of a projection. So it may be more at the end of the day. What I will tell you is whatever we get in revenue, it goes into the fund. It's not driving anything. I mean, like if it's extra, like it was this year, it helps to increase our fund balance a little bit in this fund, but we only spend it for the roads. We're not anticipating spending anything on the roads next year. Anyhow, it's an off year for us in regards to paving, because we're trying to do paving every other year.
Okay.
It's just one of these ones that we kind of, some years it goes up, some years it goes down, and we're always guessing. And George and I try to throw a dart at this, and we've never hit it exactly right. And in the 8 years that I've been here, and I don't think it was.
I can just clarify to the answer. The gas tax is a certain pennies per gallon purchased. So for every gallon of gas paid, it's 18 cents federal tax, 0.5 cents Pennsylvania tax. So even it doesn't matter what the fluctuation of the cost of gas is. It's just 18.5 cents of every gallon you pay for.
So Eric,
But there's also more people driving now than there were a year ago. Now that COVID's over.
That's true, but
Electric cars now though.
you're starting to see the impact of electric vehicles is starting to be felt.
There's no fee
the number
charged
of
for electric.
gallons.
Not at
Pay
this
like a
time.
$300 fee.
No, so there's a lot of discussion, but currently there is no legislation that levies any taxes to offset that.
Because electric cars still
Use the roadways.
use the roads.
Correct.
Yeah.
And there's a few states that have started playing around with legislation on how to do that, but as of right now, there is none in Pennsylvania.
Okay, thank you.
I will say that, whatever that number is, we'll record it as it comes in, obviously, and we'll use that as a basis. And we try to look back over like 4 or 5 years as we make the guesstimate. I mean, there was a couple of years ago that we only got, I think it was 390,000 or something like that. So we try to hit that number pretty close, but it's hard to know where to hit it. So that's what we're anticipating. Expense wise, we have about 508,500. And this is, we're paying down on the loan that we took to do the road program. And so we anticipate using 84,000 of the 200,000 that we think we'll have at the end of this year, taking us down to 122 as the fund balance. Any questions on the non-general funds budget?
the board, anyone? Thank you very much, Mr. Neese. All right. Down to section 9 reports. 9.1 report from the police department. Chief Lunn, do you have anything to add or supplement to your report?
Okay.
Thank you very much. 9.2 report from the fire department. Chief Everloft is not here. 9.3 report from the public works director, Mr. Sharretts. Do you have anything to add or supplement? Come on up.
I do. Thank you. I'll be very brief. Leaf collection started today for the season.
Oh,
One of the challenges is that the leaves really haven't fallen yet. So we went through the entire zone 1 today and picked up 1/2 of 1 truckload full of leaves. So because we feel for the poor people in zone 1, our recommendation to the board would be that we go back out again next week when we're scheduled to do zone 2, and we'll do zone 2 and zone 1. I suspect we're still going to be relatively light in the number of leaves, but at least we'll give people a chance. So that's what we're recommending that we'll do. And if you think that's appropriate, we'll put that on the website and then people can know that.
any opposition from the board?
I think it's appropriate.
Congratulations.
Okay.
Thank you.
The other thing, very quickly, the perfect truck for this kind of time period would be our 1-person leaf collection truck, which was supposed to be here before leaf season started. They are now telling us it'll be possibly by the end of November. They're having problems with getting the dual steering parts. And then after that comes in, they'll be able to get the leaf collection apparatus added to it. So that truck is not here yet. Our DEP grant that is paying 90% of it is actually scheduled to expire at the end of this year. So the DEP is allowing us to submit for a 3-month extension, which I recommend that we do. And if you agree with that, I'll put the paperwork in and they'll give us another 3 months to get it.
Any opposition from the board?
No.
Proceed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sharretts. 9.4, report from the codes officer. Mr. Reschek is not here. 9.5, report from the finance director. Ms. Pollock, do you have anything to add or supplement to your report? Thank you very much. 9.6, report from the library director. Ms. Caruso, do you have anything to add or supplement? Thank you very much. Congratulations on the successful book sale. The friends of the library on that one. 9.7, report from leisure services. Mr. Enhow, anything to add or supplement? Thank you very much. 9.8, report from the township engineer. Mr. Johnson.
Yes, just give a quick update on two of our active projects, roads program. Glasgow is currently paving. To date, they've paved Hilltop, Radnor, and Rockwood. And continuing on tomorrow, they'll be going down the list. Wood Hill, Devon, Springhouse, Dutton, Barron, Wedgewood, Malin, Sleepy Hollow, Frog Hollow roads, anticipating to be completed by the end of the month, so next Tuesday. So hopefully by midweek, the project will be wrapped up. And then Ellis Avenue sidewalk, the contractor is currently working on installing the sidewalk and aprons, coordinating with each of the property owners as they move down the street. So that project is continuing on, and we seem to be working well with all of the properties. Other than that, all the other capital project work on are outlined in my report.
Thank you. So road program will be done by, you think, midweek next week?
Tentatively was scheduled for next Tuesday, so by mid next week, we'd hope we have some good weather this week.
And with regard to Ellis Avenue, I was away last week. I came back. The amount that they started putting in with regards to sidewalk looks great. I mean, I think it's a massive improvement, both from obviously the accessibility and the safety aspect, but even cosmetically, it looks great. So I'm really happy how that's turning out. All right, 9.9, report from the township manager, Mr. Neese.
I think you've heard everything that I would have to say tonight.
Perfect. We'll move down to section 10, budget adjustment 10.1. Can I get a motion to approve the budget increase 2023-07, increasing signal repairs insurance by $16,949.11, replace the damaged traffic signal pole which was caused by an accident.
So move for approval.
Motion was made by Supervisor Partridge, seconded by Supervisor Chandler. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Section 11.1. Can I get a motion to approve the escrow payment to Ralph Russia at 19 Locust Street totaling $121.50 for a completed grading project?
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor Chandler, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lakehap. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. 11.2, can I get a motion approving a $340 refund to James Bonner at 112 Locust Street for permit payments that were not needed?
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor Chandler, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lakehap. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. 11.3, can I get a motion approving the $3,994.68 tax refund payment to 149 Cornerstone LLC at 3919 Rockwood Farm Road for a court-ordered assessment reduction? Motion is made by Supervisor Partridge, seconded by Supervisor Chandler. Is there any board discussion?
I have a question, Mr. Is this a house? What is this? It's an LLC. It's not.
Yeah,
No,
I
typically
think
for a
it's still a
house.
residential home, but I think it's owned by a LLC. But
It just
It
seems
was-
like a huge reduction for.
it is a
brand new
huge
home.
reduction, but I think it's actually at the corner of it's Rockwood Farm Road. Oh, I know, it's in the Lissitor subdivision. It's the large homes that are in that area. That are down by Goshen Road.
Okay.
Rich, I don't know if you know this, was this a settlement with the school district, or did they actually go to trial on this?
Not aware of any
Oh, yeah.
tracks.
I think this one, it was a court order.
And there's no recourse on it.
Yeah.
There's no recourse on a court order like for an assessment, right? I mean, it is what it is.
Not for
It's a
us.
stipulation.
Not for us,
Right,
yeah.
right. So we can't
Yeah.
do anything about it. It's,
Our,
No, because they have
our
to.
school district solicitor takes the lead on that. He's the actual party. He litigates them. He litigates them very thoroughly.
Yeah.
He's got a team of people that do it. The school district's budget is about 9 times bigger than our budget, so any tax impact is about 9 times bigger than our tax impact. So typically, township pays fraction of the costs of the school district's pursuit or defense of the tax appeal. About a 9, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So
I
we
think
got a
that changes.
$4,000 reduction. You're saying he got like a 30-some thousand dollar reduction? Possibly. This seems like a lot of money for a new house.
Any other board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. 11.4, can I get a motion approving the payment to JB Construction totaling $21,555 for the Ellis Avenue sidewalk project?
So moved.
Motion is made by Supervisor Chandler, seconded by Supervisor Partridge. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. 11.5, can I get a motion approving the following quarterly deposit into the pension plan, $54,915.50 for the uniform employees, $46,052.25 for the non-uniform employees?
So moved. Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Chandler, seconded by Supervisor Robert Lightcap. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Section 12, bills, 12.1. I've reviewed the bills, and so I'll make a motion to approve the bills on check register A dated October 23rd, 2023, totaling $354,534.65.
Second.
Motion is made by the chair, seconded by Supervisor Chandler. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Section 13, new business, 13.1. Can I get a motion approving the half-page color ad in the Veterans Freedom Medal Dinner Program at a cost of $175?
So moved.
Motion was made by Supervisor Russo, seconded by Supervisor Partridge. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. 13.2, can I get a motion authorizing staff to take action for the rezoning at 4031 Westchester Pike?
So moved.
Motion was made by Supervisor Partridge, seconded by Supervisor Chanlis. Is there any board discussion? Mr. Neese, do you need to chime in on this one or say anything?
So just so the board's aware, this is the property that sits next to the Porsche dealer. 2 years ago, when the Porsche dealer came in and did their project, they offered for this property to be zoned with them to commercial. The property owner at that time chose not to act. He's now coming back and wishing to make his property zoned commercial. And that's what you have before you. So he's wanting to do a zoning amendment. And so we would go through that, we'll get Rich involved, there would be fees that were involved that he would have to pay and then do that and move forward.
And this is the only residential home in the whole strip and.
There is actually one next to it, that's owned by the Mastardis.
They do residential.
I think the house is still residential. I think the rest of it is the business is my understanding, but I don't know that for sure.
All right. Anyway.
But that's also zoned residential right next to it, but that would be the only spot that's left. So I'm going to recommend a conversation with the Mastardis as part of that. as
Right,
they're
which
moving
we're
forward.
trying to get that, right.
Yep.
On commercial anyways.
All right, any other board discussion? Thank you, Mr. Neese. All those approved?
Those in favor?
Oh, sorry, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Is it? Motion carried. Yeah, motion carries unanimously. 13.3, can I get a motion approving the following change orders from JB Construction Enterprises for the Ellis Sidewalk Project? Change order number 1 is for an addition of 90 square yards, concrete sidewalk totaling $16,200. Change order 2 is for the addition of 115 square feet of curbing and 13 square yards of pavement restoration totaling $7,105.
I have a few questions.
Well, let's get
So
a
moved.
motion, right? So a motion was made by Supervisor Partridge, seconded by Supervisor Chanlis. Now we'll move to board discussion. Mr. Russo, just put your microphone on for me.
Mr. Johnson, how can we be 9 trucks of concrete short on a job on a street that's so small? Was area added?
Yes, so what that would be is right now they have the sidewalk that runs along Ellis Avenue.
Yeah.
We actually have was pretty good pricing on the contract. So this would be the adding of sidewalk on Gallagher's Way.
Yeah.
From the intersection with Ellis connecting to the existing sidewalk. We're at dead end right now, short about halfway up the block.
Towards Elgin.
Towards Elgin,
Yes.
that's correct.
Yes.
Because right now that sidewalk just stops right when you get to the township property. So the idea here, and I should have The idea here is that when that sidewalk comes in, now to bring it down from Elgin down to Ellis.
So it's additional work.
It's additional
correct.
work and it's connecting another neighborhood to this
Connecting
project.
sidewalks.
All right, that's
Yeah.
fine. It
I
wasn't
thought
stated
the
like
same
that
thing,
here.
yeah. Change order would indicate that something was missed.
No, this would be, we're basically using
additional
contract
work.
quantities, the contract unit prices to add additional work to the project,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
And the same thing on the curb piece, there was a piece of curbing that we were gonna leave the old curb. We looked at it after they poured the new curb. And we said, that really now looks like it's old. And so we're adding that new curb in that location. I think it's in front of one house or. one
So it's in the area of 501, Alice.
So that's what the two are.
Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. 13.4, can I get a motion ratifying the holding tank agreement for 4027 Westchester Pike?
I move for approval.
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Partridge, seconded by Supervisor Chanlis. Is there any board discussion? Mr. Neese?
My only, this is an agreement, I think. Rich and I talked, I had the authority to sign it, but we wanted to make sure it was done in public as well. You had given me the authority to sign any documents needed for this development. This is the Porsche development, and so, and it had been signed, but we just kind of a belt and suspenders are having you approve the document that I signed.
What's the holding tank for?
The holding tank was to hold the sewer until the connection was made.
Unconnected?
He's not connected yet because the pump station was not connected, was not operational at that time.
Physically connected, but the pump's not up.
Yeah.
Physically
Down
connected.
by Subaru dealer?
Yes.
Yeah,
Still not working?
it's working now, but at the time which we did this, it was not. And so we're going through and getting everybody connected now.
And those letters, a little bit of a caveat, but those letters to residents to say that you can connect, they went out, correct?
That's correct. There's still some additional ones that have to be sent out to some of the businesses, but all of the residential properties have been notified.
The pump station is up and running.
The pump station is up and running.
Perfect. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. 13.5, can I get a motion approving the Historic Commission application procedure as noted on the attached documents?
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor Russo, seconded by Supervisor Partridge. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. 13.6, can I get a motion approving the staff's recommendation to accept PSAT's offer for their unemployment to join their unemployment compensation group trust fund as approved by the township solicitor?
I move for approval.
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor Partridge, seconded by Supervisor Russo. Is there any board discussion? Mr. Nisi, you want to opine on this?
I
Flush
just,
out.
I will just tell you, currently, we're mostly self-insured. This would take us away from a self-insured, but give us protection going forward.
Any other board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. 13.7, can I get a motion approving, well, I guess we'll have Mr. Ford come up and do a presentation and then we'll make the motion. How's that sound? We're at 13.7 with regards to the outside storage coolers for the Ruth's Chris Steakhouse as shown in the attached documents. Mr. Ford is handing out stuff now.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks for the trees. Thanks for the tree.
Always. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, John Ford Equus here to talk about the addition of 3 cooler boxes to building 10 located within phase 2 of the Ellis Retail Center. This is the Ruth's Chris restaurant. As you can see from the site plan, it's the cooler boxes are located on the northwest corner of the restaurant. If you wouldn't mind flipping to the perspective, please.
While they're doing that, so just to help summarize this, to make your process a little faster here, John. So when the prior board approved this plan, they approved the plan as, essentially buildings. They did not know any of the tenants that were going to be coming through. since the build out has occurred and as the rest of the build out is occurring, you start securing tenant space, your tenants for these different spaces. One of these tenants that you secure is Ruth's Chris. The way that Ruth's Chris operates is that they have their coolers on the outside. You
Correct.
came before the board originally about 2 weeks ago, or I guess a month ago, showing wanting to get this approval. The renderings were not necessarily the renderings that we're looking at today.
Correct.
The renderings
Yeah.
that we have here are what we're looking at with regards to Ruth's Chris.
That's correct.
So just to summarize and tell me if I'm I'm trying to make. this
No,
clear
no,
for
no,
everyone.
that's,
Where the coolers are going are behind that black panel
So-
fencing
that's correct.
covered
Yeah,
by 7-foot arbor, 9-foot arborvitae.
Right, right. The cooler boxes are 9 foot tall. So we're using we're cladding the cooler boxes with the same material that's going to be on the building. And then we have a 7'6" wide planting strip in front of the side material on the cooler boxes. As you can see, we're going to plant arborvitaes all around that.
And so no one's gonna see the cooler boxes from the outside.
Nobody will see the cooler boxes. Right?
Nice,
So-
nice job.
And they're along the parking lot, right? When you come in.
Yeah, so the perspective that you're seeing here is looking north from Equus Boulevard. So from Charles Ellis Drive, there'll be a building 8 will be in front of it, so you
Mhm.
can't even see it. So the parking lot's right
Yeah.
there.
Okay.
And the handicap ramps in front of that.
Will they be planted at that height, John?
Yeah, we're gonna get mature
Yeah.
arborvitaes right
Yeah,
across the
nice.
front of it. Yeah.
Nice job, camouflaging.
All right, John, I don't know if you have anything else you want to present, but I figured I'd
That was it.
speed you
No,
along.
thanks
that.
for speeding that up.
Yeah, speed that along for you there.
Thank you for the details. I
Okay.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. So we'll now make a motion to approve the exterior finish of the outside storage coolers for Ruth's Chris Steakhouse as shown in the attachments.
So move for approval.
Motion was made by Supervisor Russo, seconded by Supervisor Partridge. Is there any additional board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Section 14, land development approval. We'll now move down to 3734, 3740 Westchester Pike. I believe it's Subio. Is there representatives from that? State your name and address for the record and take it from there.
Jack Robinson from Danmore Engineering. I'm the site engineer for the property. Dr. Subio is here tonight as well as our landscape architect, if anybody has any questions.
You guys putting on a presentation or anything? or-
Yes,
Okay,
I can put just a very brief
Yep.
presentation on what the plans. You guys want to?
and I'm sorry, what did you say your name was, sir?
Jack Robinson.
Jack Robinson.
Be the July site plans.
Okay. I won't get that detail. Not much is, no, not at the level of, Yeah,
They'll understand the flow and what you're doing.
yes.
You guys can address any changes.
Okay. Yes, our land development plan is really more about the joining these two buildings. The plan itself essentially is, there's two properties here that the Subios now own. One was their existing prior office and the other one is the one next door. So the plan is not only to join the two existing buildings, but also to join the properties. So it'll be one parcel now. And the buildings will be joined with a breezeway connection. So as far as the plan is really light on site changes, most of the changes will happen inside the building. in rehabbing the inside of the building and fitting it out. The outside changes are very minor. Like I said, there's a breezeway in between the two buildings. There's some entrance changes on the west building. You can see those two darker gray boxes. There's just a little changes to the entrance there. And the most major site change is that the two parking lots that exist for each building will be joined with a one-way access. Just so they're connected. And that it's one way, mostly to facilitate the one-way traffic that is already on Route 3 and kind of perpetuate the current traffic patterns that are in the area right now. And that's essentially the changes for the site. The parking really remains the same for the buildings. There's just going to be a connection. We resolved how wide that access is between the two parking lots with the fire marshal. Fire marshal dictated how wide that would be because based upon his equipment. So that's been discussed at length, probably for the most of the discussion. Other discussions have been just with as far as landscaping and how we can best landscape. Despite the fact there's very little changes, we're still adding a fair amount of landscaping and some fencing as well against the neighbors.
I have a question for you. With regards to that, with regards to the change that you're making to the driveway in the back, and connecting it through, are you guys proposing any parking lot lights and things like that? Is that parking lot going to be lit up?
Yes, there is a lighting package proposed. We do have some proposed lighting to supplement what's already there now. There is already some lighting in those parking lots, but it will be modified. Pardon me? It's pole lighting. Yeah, I believe so. That was more Mr. Panzak, I think. The existing is pole lighting, correct? And well, there were some, I think, wall pack modifications as well to the existing buildings as well. Yes.
What was discussed? Sorry, it's kind of hard for me to hear you for some reason. I don't know. Is anyone else is having difficulty? What was discussed?
You want to come up here, Vern? You know more about that part, but.
During the previous, my name's Bernard Panzak. I'm with Glack and Thomas Panzak. I'm a landscape architect for the project. And at the last meeting we were at relative to lighting, there's an existing parking lot light and there's some existing wall pack lighting that would essentially remain in place.
All right.
No additional new lighting?
We're not proposing additional new lighting at this.
You want to walk me through the landscaping in the back? The improvements that you're doing or any addition or subtractions of landscaping that you're doing back there?
Yeah, we could, if the landscape plan is available, I could walk through that.
We have the latest on a board if you want to show it. Yeah, I think we should. Yeah, I think we should just. We have the latest on a board. If you just want us
Yeah.
to show you.
Actually, if you can just do it from that podium though, it's going to be,
Okay.
because we have the plans and this is being recorded, so.
Yeah. There's existing landscaping by way of trees, evergreen trees, deciduous trees across the back line. There are several parking lot trees, and there are other trees that are between the two parking lots that Mr. Robinson mentioned earlier. The driveway connection will be the reason for removal of those trees. There are a series of trees in that area that are what we would describe as dead, diseased, or dying trees that would be removed also. We're removing a couple of trees that would be impacted by the stormwater management facility that's just on the south side of the new driveway, and preserving the other trees, primarily evergreen trees, preserving that buffer between the neighboring property to the south. And then if you, that's sort of our existing conditions and removal plan, and essentially where there were gaps in that plan. Along the south side, we were infilling with new evergreen material, both in shrub form and primarily in tree form. There is a parking lot with very limited amount of space in the acquired property, and we are proposing a 6-foot solid fence there, which would mitigate any headlight.
What's back there now, where you're putting the fence? What's existing now? Is there a fence there now?
Nothing.
No.
Nothing back there. So just, I don't know why I'm having difficulty looking at, so I know where Stubio is, but is next to him, is that what the old Novacare was?
Yeah.
Is that what it was? Okay.
Yeah, this is just a lawn up to the existing park.
Because that's school lane behind there, correct? Yeah,
Mhm.
so if I'm a resident, one of these residents back here with that new traffic pattern and with the landscape you're proposing, I shouldn't see anything? Any headlights coming in?
Repair parking lot to that house with the trampoline or whatever's there.
Understood.
I think, but
But with what you're proposing, if I live back there,
The new solid fencing, any activity in that parking lot would be,
not just there, the entire lot. Entire lot.
well, this, the entire lot here, this is the connecting driveway, this is the existing lot.
Yep. Which would be one lot.
Anything, there will be solid landscaping from this corner to the new fence. And then it will be fencing, and it's primarily due to space available.
Understand.
Yeah, no,
So
that's-
just to make sure that I'm clear, because I think I might have confused you. So I'm including that as the entire lot,
Right.
with the existing existing lot and the newly acquired lot, that one entire lot. Now, if there's gonna be a new traffic pattern going back there, if I'm any of these other houses, I'm looking at Ratano, I'm looking at Cooper, I'm looking at Connor. I'm not gonna see, well, really Ratano, Cooper, I guess. I'm not gonna see lighting coming through with what you have proposed. Is that accurate?
That's it.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Yep.
Any other questions from the board? Do you have anything else with regards to your presentation you want to put forward? All right. Is there any members of the public that are here that want to provide any comment on this? All right. And you said you have nothing else, right, Mr. Robinson?
No, only to say that the neighbors actually showed up at some of the planning commission meetings that we've already discussed and made changes and had a good dialogue.
Perfect.
Did we get a letter from the planning commission?
Yes, we did.
We did? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't see it. I saw the one for Nolan. I didn't see it for that.
recommended approval subject to the engineer conditions, fire marshal conditions.
Okay, thank you.
All right, perfect. So we're gonna just jump down to 15.1, which is approval of resolution 2023-33 land development approval for 3734-3740 Westchester Pike. And it's a long one, so I will take one for the team on this. Resolution number 2023-33 preliminary final land development approval 3734 and 3740 Westchester Pike, reverse subdivision, plastic surgery, med spa, and Novacare rehabilitations buildings. Whereas Subio Real Estate LLC applicant or developer has submitted plans to approve its application for preliminary/final land development for the premises at 3734 and 3740 Westchester Pike at the southeast corner of the intersection of Westchester Pike and Row Lane, related to the combination reverse subdivision of the two properties in additions to the existing buildings, including combining them into one building. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Newtown Township hereby resolves and conditionally approves the aforementioned application and plans subject to and conditioned upon the following. I don't have to read that entire, want me to read this entire thing? Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood your handwriting on this. The applicant must comply with the following. A, the comments and recommendations of the DCPD recommendation letter, the township engineer review letter, the fire marshal review letter, township arborist review letter, and the planning commission memo. Representations of JMR engineering and JMR response to fire marshal letter. Any representation to the applicant or JMR at the October 23rd, 2023 Board of Supervisors meeting. Applicant has withdrawn the conditional use approval to allow 10 inventory parking spots with a 7.5 foot setback along the Westchester Pike right of way. In consideration for the board allowing the landscaping and buffering required in the northern portion of the project in that area to be moved to residential properties owned by the applicant to the north. And the deed restricted area is depicted on the plans. If the residential property is sold, the applicant agrees to enter into a maintenance agreement to maintain the buffer in those areas. 3, the following waivers are approved. Subsection A, section 148-12 and 13 for joint submission of preliminary final land development approval. B, a partial waiver of section 104-14.C1A D1 to allow for a reduced tree planting of 6 trees of 2 and that would be 2 and 12 to 3 caliber trees rather than the required 9 such trees. D, section 104-14.D8B1 to allow the proposed driveway connecting the 2 existing parking lots to be located within the 50-foot secondary buffer between residential and non-residential uses. D, a partial waiver of section 104-14.D8B1A. Planning requirements to allow 6-foot high fence in lieu of said plantings as depicted on the plans for the 122 feet along the southern property line due to limited space and location of the existing parking lots. Section 104.D8B2B to allow a reduction in the required number of plantings as depicted on the plans due to space limitations in existing plantings. 4, approval is conditioned upon further A, developer shall construct the development in strict accordance with the plans except as otherwise modified herein. The terms and conditions of this resolution, any agreements required by this resolution. B, applicant shall pay to the township $300 for each of the 3 trees not planted, $900 per the partial waiver of section 104-14.C1A above. In addition, following construction of the improvements, applicant will work with the township arborist regarding adding as much of the waiver landscape buffer requirements on the property as reasonably possible, with the goals in mind as stated by the EAC review, and replace the overgrown Nandina shrubs in the front bed along Westchester Pike and a mixed border of native shrubs in consultation with the township arborist. C, applicant will pay in lieu of a recreation lands fee per township code in the amount of $1,920 per township code section 142-41. The applicant will comply with all respects of the applicable township codes, ordinances, and regulations, as well as any applicable county, state, or federal regulations, and obtain necessary sewage planning approvals. E, applicant will provide proof of permission and or obtain signatures on plans and or agreements to allow filing the same to the satisfaction of the township solicitor. F, applicant will post financial security and execute a developer's agreement and financial security agreement and post financial security pursuant to the MPC and the township code prior to applying for or receiving permits, all of which may be executed by the township manager upon agreement of the township solicitor and the township engineer. G, developer shall enter into the stormwater operations and maintenance agreement with the township and be prepared by the township solicitor, including escrow to secure costs of inspections per township code, and developer shall further pay a fee to the township BMP operation and maintenance in the amount of $2,500 to defray the cost of inspections and maintenance per township code section 148-53.B. H, developer will coordinate with the township to determine which plans are to be recorded and make any necessary modifications to the plans to implement the recording of the preliminary plan in accordance with this resolution. I, developer shall obtain any necessary approvals and waivers of the proposed sanitary sewer services, the development from the necessary parties, including but not limited to the township municipal authority and or the sewage facilities planning module approved by PADEP, and provide proof thereof to the satisfaction of the alternate township engineer and township sewage enforcement officer prior to recording the plans. Developer shall also enter into an agreement with the township municipal authority as needed for the proposed sanitary sewer system upon approval of the system by the required governmental agencies. J, preliminary/final approvals contingent upon payment of all outstanding professional fees /escrows replenishment within 45 days of the approved, except as properly challenged in accordance with the MPC. K, developer shall comply with in all respects to the applicable township codes, ordinances, and regulations, as well as any applicable county, state, or federal regulations, and developer must obtain all applicable township, state, county, and federal permits, approvals, and or waivers. N, L, the township manager shall have the authority to execute all documents to effectuate the above conditional approval, resolved the 23rd day of October 2023 at a public meeting in the Newtown Township Board of Supervisors. That is my motion.
Second.
Motion was made by the chair and seconded by Supervisor Partridge. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, Dr. Zubio. We'll now move down to 15.2, consider approving resolution 2023-34, DEP resolution for plan revision for the Stony Knoll development. Actually, we just need a vote on that. So is there a motion?
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor Chandler, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. Is there any board discussion? Mr. Neese, you need to add anything on this one? This is for the Stony Knoll.
It is for Stony Knoll. You've actually already approved this.
Yeah.
But DEP required change in the filing, I think because they found something that they didn't like, and so they had to go back through the process. They are requiring us to act on it again. And that's why it's before you for a second time.
Any comments or questions from the board? Mr. Gage, you're here. Do you want to add anything?
Just making sure there's any questions.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Now we'll move 15.3. Can I get a motion approving resolution 2023-35 bank signatories for the protested real estate tax account at TD Bank? Motion was made by Supervisor Chandler, seconded by Supervisor Partridge. Mr. Score, question for you. For both 15.2 and 15.3, do we have to read the resolutions or can we just approve the motions? If you want the resolution.
I don't see any reason to read them. I mean.
Okay, I didn't think so either, but I just wanted to confirm that.
They're typical bank resolutions and the other one's the normal DEP resolution.
All right, perfect.
It's not important any wisdom on anyone. Usually you read the land development resolution
Yeah.
just because you want to tell the applicant what it is you're doing in case there's a question or a problem.
So you're saying I imparted wisdom tonight?
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Uh,
That's what I needed.
I think everybody knows what we're doing here related to the bank. It's that this is a specific checking account that we have to move the money to for the purpose of when there's taxes paid in protest. We had one before, but we hadn't had to use it for a while, so it closed. This is opening a new one.
Plus another reason you don't have to read it, right, is you post these pro forma type resolutions on your website so the public can just see it. The decisional type resolution where things might change, we don't publish them ahead of time. So I have a draft prepared for you.
Okay.
Sometimes it doesn't get passed at all. Sometimes it changes. So that's just you're reading it because
Yeah.
you're sharing that knowledge with everyone for the first time.
All right, that motion was made and seconded. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. When I move down to section 16, board comment. Is there any board comment? We'll move down to section 17, public comment. Is there any public comment? Let the record reflect there is no public comment, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.